Hello and welcome to the House Sable Pub, where we game and talk about Digimon as well as tabletop RPGs. Today, we're going to be talking about something new to Digimon. Specifically, this is all about Digimon World Shambala. Digimon World Shambala is a digital world that is heavily inspired by a mixture of beliefs, with the name of it Shambala even being pulled from a spiritual kingdom in Tibetan Buddhist traditions. So, why is this such a big deal? Well, we've talked about Digimon World Iliad and its host computer Homer. Digimon World Yggdrasil, the world most would be familiar with, as well as its host King Drawsil, has been at the center of a lot of discussions. Why is this one a big deal? Well, go back a bit, and I apologize if I say any of the names in this video wrong, but in a 2020 Twitter post, Kazumasa Habu, who acted as a producer on Digimon games from 2010 to about 2022, posted on Twitter that there are 3 digital servers. Now, a lot of online sources I find say that he'd also stated that the third world had not been used yet, which is why we knew it wasn't Witchelny. However, I haven't been able to find these sources, as the tweet that you can see here simply states that a third digital world exists, and this tweet is from February of 2020. Most sources I can find about Witchelny show that it hasn't come out until March of 2020, which would be a whole month later. We can easily assume Habu might have been alluding to a world separate from Witchelny with how the internet works. It also is something to consider. Now, if you do happen to have proof of any kind of source showing that this tweet here means that Witchelny isn't the third world, or even other sources relevant to it, I'm happy to learn more and correct what I say here. Now, with that in mind, we're 5 years later and truly getting one of our biggest looks into Digimon World Iliad, with Time Stranger just on the horizon, which we'll be talking about in a little while. But with all that going on, they decided to drop Digimon World Shambala as a bit of an interactive web page on the Digimon Encyclopedia website. I'll put the link to it down in the description below so you can go through it and maybe see if you've noticed anything that I didn't. But I'm going to be talking to you about the world, Digimon that are relevant to it, and inspirations that may have led to a lot of the choices made. I hope you'll enjoy this journey we're about to go on together, and without further ado, here we go. Where to start with the inspirations for Digimon World Shambala? Well, we have Buddhism, Taoism, Japanese mythology, and Journey to the West as a few of the inspirations at play here. I would argue probably most of them. I'm going to give each one of these a fairly brief overview, as I don't think I'm quite the person to go too in-depth on any of these fields and be able to do it properly. Plus, if I did, this video would already go a little bit too long, as the video is, I want to say, about 30 to 40 minutes as it is. Now, I'm going to try to fit just enough information in this video to go over them. If I leave something out, I apologize. Either I didn't see it in my research, or it just didn't seem relevant to what I was talking about. Now, we're going to start off with Buddhism, which, from what I can find, is the 4th largest religion in the world. Starting off in about the 6th or 5th century BCE, or before the Common Era, in a land that is now part of Nepal. It is the followings of the teachings of the Buddha, or the Awakened One, and the Buddha Dharma are the doctrine of the Enlightened One, which are meant to lead to a path of awakening and full liberation from the dukkha, or suffering. I do apologize if I said that weird. I am using online pronunciation guides, and that will come up multiple times in the video, so if I say anything wrong, I do apologize. Now, the Buddhist canon, which can't help but make me smile about the idea of canon in this context, is extremely vast, with different texts in many languages, and each with their own interpretations. The primary are the Theravada or Mahayana, or the schools of the elders or great vehicles respectively. And before I butcher any more words and risk upsetting anyone, I'm going to move on to our next inspiration, Taoism. a religious tradition indigenous to China that emphasizes harmony with the Tao, or the natural way of the universe. Taoism seems to have come around in a solidified system somewhere between 450 and 300 BCE. In fact, the Mahayana tradition of Zen from Buddhism seems to even incorporate many ideas from Taoism. Taoism is extremely complicated for a belief system, and even reading through a few articles on their belief and what they would consider, I'll refer to as the goal as Taoism, there's a lot to understand and a lot of variance depending on certain regions. I highly suggest giving it a read, as there's quite a lot to understand. Japanese mythology is a much broader topic, as opposed to just being a system of beliefs and practices with deities. It is also a collection of traditional stories like folk tales and, deities, cryptids, myths. One thing I do want to bring up here, and this is important, is that when it comes to the Japanese pantheon, the gods and goddesses referred to as kami within Japanese mythology are numerous and varied. Whereas some systems of belief may have one god or 12 gods or maybe even 20, Japanese mythology has a pantheon of somewhere around at least 8 million? Yeah, as I said, it's quite numerous. While many of these kami do find their origins in Shinto beliefs, Buddhism has also had its influence on the pantheon, and there is some overlap. The final bit of inspiration is a story that's widely regarded as one of the great Chinese novels. First brought to English-speaking countries through an abridged translation in 1942 by Arthur Waley, Journey to the West is a story that many, many people know, even if they don't know they know it, if that makes sense. A fictionalized and fantastic account of the pilgrimage of a Chinese Buddhist monk, Xuanzang, is in their 16-year journey to India in the 7th century AD. Now, if this doesn't sound familiar, the names Sun Wukong or Sun Goku might make sense. And if that doesn't, well, Black Myth Wukong, God of High School, Dragon Ball, these are all pieces of media that have taken inspiration from Journey to the West, and it's such a small portion of media that references or tells the story of Journey to the West that itself could be a whole video. Now, as I said, there is inspiration to Digimon World Shambala here, and I'll explain that in a little bit. Now, with all of this in mind, these are the inspirations for Digimon World Shambala. So let's go into the actual Digimon side of everything. Some of the Digimon that are in Digimon World Shambala already existed, at least for different forms of media within Digimon. Susanumon is from Digimon Frontier, Kaguyamon and Ryugamon are from Digimon Liberator, Najamon and Erlongmon are from Digimon New Century, and Shakamon is from Digimon Crusader. In fact, since we're on the topic of these Digimon, so I just rattled off some Digimon's names, but who are they and what do they have to do with Shambhala? Now, I'm going to go into the Digimon I had mentioned, but mostly I'm going to be giving a fairly brief overview of them, mentioning origins or inspiration, as well as their roles within Shambhala, and I'd be remiss if I didn't start with Susanumon. Susanumon is a mega-level Digimon originating from Digimon Frontier, a series that still haunts me to this day. Susanumon is based on Susanu, or Susanu no Mikoto, a kami from Japanese mythology. Susanu, the younger brother of Amaterasu, is a deity often presented with contradictory characteristics. However, in Digimon fashion, they wrote a very different origin for Susanu. One that I have theories about. On the webpage, it reads, by order of Kunlun, the host computer that manages Shambhala, Susanumon destroyed the system that had existed since ancient times. Then, using his power of creation, he rewrote it into the form of Shambhala we know today. Or so the legends say. I'll get into theories another time, but Suffice to say, it's clear that Susanoo has powers of absolute destruction and creation, and was chosen by Kunlun to recreate the world as we know it. After completing their goal, however, Susanoo had vanished. With that void, guardians were needed for this new digital world, and in Susanoo place, we got the Tente Hachibushu, or the 8 warlords of the Heavenly Empire. I'll be going over them one at a time so that I can properly cover them. Shakamon, the Mega Digimon leader of the 8 warlords, is believed to be the closest to Kunlun, is the one we'll be covering first. Shaka is another word for the historical Buddha, though it appears that this word is pulled from the clan Siddhartha had been born to, the Shaka clan. Though Siddhartha renounced his home life, it could be referring to some of the oldest written records of Buddhism that talk about the Shakyamuni, or the Sage of the Shakas, which was another name for the Buddha. Interestingly, there is a card for Shakamon from 2011 for the Digimon Gintrix card game that went down in 2012. On the card's profile, it appears to have specified it was the closest to Yggdrasil, and would impose ordeals on the digital world, awaiting Digimon that can overcome said ordeal. While Shakamon still does this, Yggdrasil specifically has been replaced with Kunlun, which, at least they updated something about it for Digimon World. Amaterasumon is another Mega Digimon and member of the 8 Warlords, as well as a member of the Sanmyojin, or 3 Wise Spirits. The Sanmyojin are a group of 3 powerful feminine Digimon who I'll explain as they come up, but Amaterasumon is one who has the authority of the skies. Amaterasumon is a brand new Digimon, created for Digimon World Shambala and the Digimon Pendulum Color that's being released. Amaterasumon is inspired by Amaterasu Omikami, the goddess of the sun in Japanese mythology. Amaterasu is commonly seen as a chief of the kami of the Shinto pantheon, and has quite a few references in various anime and video games. Erlongmon, another Mega Digimon, member of the 8 Warlords and the Saneketsu, or 3 Excellent Heroes, a group of powerful masculine Digimon. Due to their valuing of high martial prowess, they've earned their titles, believing in the survival of the fittest. Just as I'll touch on the members of the Sanmyojin as they come up, I'll mention members of the Saneketsu as they come up as well. Erlongmon gets its name from Erlong Shen, a god in Chinese folk religion and Taoism with many associations, though importantly warriorhood and hunting. Erlong translates to second sun and stems from Li Erlong, which is kinda who Erlong Shen is believed to have been based on. Erlongmon was actually introduced in New Century, a game I'd have loved access to over here, and Erlongmon in that game formed the Tianji, and did directly under the order of King Drawseal, which is very interesting. This is the second example of a Digimon who once served King Drawseal, now serving Kunlun due to basically just retconning. Kageyamon, like the rest, are Mega Digimon. I'm gonna kind of stop specifying that unless I talk about someone who's not a Mega at this point. Kageyamon is the next member of the Sanmyojin, ruler of the mountains. Kageyamon was introduced in 2024 as a part of Digimon Liberator, but who is Kageyamon based on? Well, that would be Kaguya Hime, the Princess of the Moon. The tale of the bamboo cutter, written in the late 9th or early 10th century by an unknown author, Kaguya is discovered as a baby in the stalk of a growing bamboo plant. Many people try to woo her into marriage, but get turned down, and one day she returns to the moon, with the Emperor of Japan having also tried to get her to marry. Now, interesting bit of lore about the bamboo cutter. It's possibly referencing that the name of Mount Fuji is related to the tale, as the Emperor of Japan in the story burned a letter and an elixir of immortality for Kaguya, who had been returned to the moon. As the immortal, or the word for immortal, is Fushi, it's kind of interesting to say the least. This here is Takutomon. Takutomon? Not 100% here. But Takutomon is a member of the Saneketsu. Takutomon is a straightforward warrior that hates to deceive others, and with that said, has its own sense of justice, which it may impose on others as it seems necessary. Due to this, it's often fighting alone, as it's not much for explaining itself, but if forced into conversation, Takutomon will let Paishu speak for it, a little small mouse pet that Takutomon has. Takutomon was introduced in 2023 when it was added to the Digimon reference book, but otherwise his only debut has been in Digimon New Century. Takutomon is based on Vesavana, one of the 4 heavenly kings of Buddhism. Vesavana is based on Kubera, the Hindu deity of wealth, though this is more in characteristics and epithets, as they both have different functions and associated myths. Vesavana is a god of warfare, portrayed as a warrior king. Now, before we begin here looking at this one, it's fairly obvious Ryugamon is my favorite of the Digimon World Shambala Mons and of the 8 warlords. Shouldn't surprise anyone who's been around in the community long enough, as it's clearly an aquatic Digimon. Now, Ryugamon is the Sanmyojin of the water and a member of the 8 warlords. Ryugamon was introduced in Digimon Liberators and added to the reference book in 2024. This one took a bit of time to find some of the inspirations, but from what I can find, Ryugamon's name comes from the Ryugujo, or Dragon Palace Crystal, and Ryugamon themselves comes from Ryujin, or Dragon God. Ryugujo does sit deep under the water, as Ryugamon often would be found, and Ryujin is a bringer of rain and thunder, but symbolizes the power of the ocean. From a quick look into things about Ryujin, I have to say I really love that there is a story where Ryujin got so mad at a jellyfish he beat it till its bones were crushed, and this is why jellyfish don't have bones. I love this. This is funny. Najamon is the last of the Saneketsu, and the second to last of the 8 warlords we'll be discussing. Najamon is quite frankly a bit of a ruffian, acting violently often until it's satisfied from people getting along with it. Don't let this fool you though, as even as much as a troublemaker as it acts to be, it does want to be a hero and is genuinely sincere in its attempts. Najamon was introduced in Digimon New Century, added to the Digimon reference book in 2024. Najamon is based on Naja, a protection deity in Taoism, Buddhism, and Chinese folklore. In Journey to the West, Naja was killed by the Heavenly King for causing chaos within the Eastern Ocean, and thus returned his flesh and blood to his mother, and then his bones to his father. Buddha resurrected Naja, however. Naja, angry about the task he had been given for cleaning his bones entirely of flesh and blood, was understandably upset by what had come. The Heavenly King, who was the one who had killed Naja and given the task, was worried about the revenge, so he went to Buddha to get help. Buddha had given him an intricately made golden pagoda, as Buddha told Naja to regard Buddhas as their father. And this was apparently all it took to end the fight between the Heavenly King and Naja. Enmamon, the final member of the 8 generals, is actually the ruler of the dark area of Digimon World Shambala, Yomi. There's not too much information on Enmamon, as much like Amaterasumon, Enmamon was made for Shambala. However, real quick, let's talk about Yomotsu Hirasaka, which is extremely relevant to Yomi. Yomotsu Hirasaka in Japanese mythology is a place that acts as a boundary between living and dead. Yomotsu Hirasaka in Japanese mythology is thought to be an impression from the stone structure of Kofun, which are megalithic tombs. According to the reference book, the Yomotsu Hirasaka of Yomi actually continues from Ashino Island, which I'll go into as much detail as we have later on when I talk about the geography of Shambala. Enma himself is the god of hell who judges right and wrong. Enma gives dreadful punishments, though don't assume that Enma is an evil god, as he only gives those punishments to those he deems worthy of them. Now, there is an interesting story about Enma that I'm going to share with you real quick. Enma once met an actor who died and banished the actor to hell for lying, as Enma believed that acting was just lying. The actor went on to explain his life to Enma, and captivated by the actor's story, wanted to see him act. Thinking quickly, the actor said he needed a costume and to give him Enma's outfit so he could act as Enma, who had obliged out of curiosity. When the actor, dressed as Enma, cried out in Enma's voice as best he could, "Ogres, ogres, take this bad man away!" The ogres were convinced by the acting and took Enma away, with the actor becoming the new Enma. Do I think this story is relevant to Digimon? Not at all. Do I think it's funny and I genuinely love the idea of this story? 100%. Much like with Ryuji and the jellyfish, I just really wanted to bring someone's attention to it. So, are the 8 Warlords and Susanumon the only Digimon relevant to Digimon World Shambala? No, there's actually quite a lot of them. Some were introduced for Shambala, some already existed and could find relation to Shambala, and some I just kind of noticed while I was researching. Now, I'm not going to be going super into detail and specifics of these Digimon, mostly because A, we would be here all day. This video would probably end up being about 3 hours. But also, for some of them, there's not even that much available. So I'm gonna kind of rapid fire them as I'm going through. With that said, first, let's talk about Fukamon. A small little cloud Digimon. At first glance, the Nimbus Cloud from Dragon Ball Z comes to mind, but being a cloud means endless possibilities. Fukamon digivolves to Makokomon. Makokomon is still a cloud like Fukamon, but has developed some features as an in-training Digimon. Akamon is a rookie Digimon designed to look kind of like a monkey. Fujimon is a fish rookie Digimon and was designed to be kind of the base of all aquatic Digimon in Shambala. Akimon, a rookie Digimon based on an ox or cow. And then Hakubomon is the champion Digimon whose design is meant to be a combination between a horse and a dragon. Tomorimon is a baby Digimon designed to look like a little fireball spirit, while Onibimon, its evolution, is designed to look more like an actual spirit. Both Tomorimon and Onibimon can exist both on the surface of Digimon World Shambala as well as in Yomi. Wankomon, the good boy Digimon as I believe it would be called, is a little rookie dog Digimon, and that yin yang will be important in a moment. Gasamon is a rookie Digimon that looks like a little samurai octopus, and I'm not gonna lie, I find him adorable and he might be my favorite rookie Digimon from Shambala. Manekimon is a cat champion Digimon. The design is similar to those cat figurines meant to bring wealth. Bishimamon is an ultimate Digimon that was designed to evolve into Amaterasumon and has powers related to the sun. Garurumon is another ultimate type and is a Digitamamon variant. I love that the legs and tail look much more dragon-esque of what we'd expect in Shambala than a normal Digitamamon. Tengumon is a mega-level Digimon designed off the mythological being known as Tengu, meaning it will likely have powers related to wind and storms. Efumon is the last of the new Digimon we'll be discussing in this video. Very important, Efumon was introduced for the Pendulum Colors, but will only appear as a quest encounter. Now, those are only new Digimon that were introduced for Shambala. They're not the only ones relevant to Shambala as I'm going to be going into. There are quite a few Digimon that have already existed that are going to be relevant to Shambala. A few will be obvious and a few of them may not be so much. Ravenmon, for example, is going to be relevant to the world of Shambala, and I say this confidently as when they were discussing some of the variant modes for the Saneketsu, they do mention Ravenmon Burst Mode. Another Digimon pair that's going to be relevant to Shambala are Tsukuyamon and Kuzuhamon. These are mostly speculation, but, well, the reason is, as you can see when I was talking about Wankomon, that yin-yang is important. And this is kind of all I have to relate them to it at the moment, but I think it speaks for itself. These two are Ginkakumon and Kinkakumon, sibling Digimon that can be said to be extremely powerful warriors. Both of them are champion Digimon, and in a pinch, Kinkakumon is able to wear Ginkakumon as armor, raising their power exponentially. This big guy is Xingtianmon. Being an Oni type, his relation to Shambala may be clear enough, but in the Ginkaku and Kinkaku images you saw before, it's actually a Jingtianmon being stepped on by Erlongmon. Hisyaryumon can be seen in the background of the Digimon Shambala website, just kind of floating around with some clouds. Next up, Shagurumon, Hangyomon, and Mermaidmon, as they are common inhabitants of the Ryushogo, which I'll be discussing a little bit later. Also, this one, there's speculation about this one. Namely, as you can see here, it's a Waymon tail. So clearly Waymon also run around in Digimon Shambala. We're going to real quick go over some Digimon relevant to Journey of the West. We have Gokumon, Shohakaimon, Stagomon, and Sanzomon. Kinkakumon and Kinkakumon are relevant to Journey of the West, as is Shakamon, but since we've already touched on them, I'm just going to leave them there. All of these Digimon were inspired by characters central to Journey of the West story, so keep that in mind. And finally, the last one I would say is likely going to be related to the Digimon World Shambala would be Ogremon. Being an Oni Digimon and being designed with Eastern ogres in mind, it only makes sense that it goes without saying that it's likely, going to be involved with Shambala. Now, it also goes without saying that pre-evolutions of, various named Digimon will probably be relevant, such as Renamon, Sangomon, and even Gaburimon. But there's no guarantee in this matter, as Digimon like Fujimon are designed to, be a basis for most aquatic Digimon in the world. There's no guarantee that they don't have other things to digivolve into the named Digimon, so keep that in mind when speculating evolutions. Now, there isn't a lot of information on the world of Digimon Shambala as a whole. Shambala is easily broken up into a few different areas and is designed to resemble that of a yin-yang. We touched on Yomi already, which, just a quick reminder, is just the dark area within Digimon World Shambala. Then from there we have the Asino Island, with, I believe, the mainland is the primal continent. The waters surrounding Shambala are the Ryushogu, the Dragon Crystal Palace, where Ryugamon spends most of its time. Now, very importantly, Ryugamon does spend a lot of time purifying the oceans within Digimon World Shambala, which I think is a really cool thing to add in. Now, that's kind of all there is to really say about the land and seas. I've been running through information available about the various Digimon to see if I can find anything special, and that's how I found the information about Yomi and Ryushogo, even if, I went into Yomi earlier as opposed to in this section. And with that, that's everything. This has kind of been my longest Digimon video so far, and I hope you enjoyed it. I know there was a lot of information here, some things that even I still don't fully understand when it comes to a lot of the inspirations, but would love to get more information on. Like the video if you enjoyed it or if you found it informative, and if you're new here, subscribe. If you'd like to join the House Sable Pub Discord, you can find it down in the description below. I'm live all but Mondays and Wednesdays, so feel free to come hang out and talk Digimon and tabletops with the rest of the community, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!